As the clock ticks down on John's grace period, he sprints through the streets of New York with urgency. Upon reaching an alley, he spots the Tick-Tock Man, a loyal informant of the Bowery King. Seeking refuge, John hops into a taxi, but the congested roads provide no respite from the impending deadline. With only 20 minutes left, he hands the driver a valuable gold coin and orders him to deliver his faithful dog to the safety of the Continental. Upon reaching the library, John requests a book and unveils a concealed compartment within it, revealing some coins, a cross, a marker, and a photo of himself and his wife, which he affectionately kisses. A burly man, Ernest, corners him amongst the bookshelves. Although John informs him that he still has time left, Ernest remains indifferent, questioning the significance of a few extra minutes. They engage in a brutal brawl, culminating in John smashing Ernest's jaw with the book and snapping his neck. However, John sustains a severe stab wound to his shoulder, prompting him to seek medical assistance at the doctor's residence. With only 5 minutes remaining until his grace period expires, the doctor agrees to help but must halt the stitching procedure halfway through. John's time runs out. The $14 million reward for John's capture is now active. After suturing his wounds and ingesting some medication, John shoots the peer and injures the manager at his behest to demonstrate to the high table that the manager breached the excommunicado order. John departs and is promptly besieged by a horde of assassins. They trap him in an antiquities store, but John utilizes the old weaponry to dispatch them in a brutal sequence of battles featuring an array of archaic knives. John emerges onto the roadway and is once again confronted by more hitmen. They pursue him into a stable where John leverages the powerful kicks of the horses to defeat several adversaries. John departs the stable while mounted on a horse, but he is pursued by 2 motorcyclists. John eliminates both of them from horseback. As a consequence of his actions, John's bounty has been increased to $15 million. Upon arriving at a theater, John is instructed to divest his pockets and unbuckle his belt. He subsequently meets with the director and seeks her assistance, displaying a cross he procured from the library. The two converse about John's background, specifically his upbringing. The director escorts him to the rear of the theater, past chambers occupied by ballet and martial arts practitioners, where she inquires as to his desired objective. John expresses his desire to gain passage to Casablanca, which the director consents to, severing all ties with him while branding him with the aforementioned cross. A mysterious woman enters the Continental. She slides a coin over to Sharon, who informs Winston, the manager, that an adjudicator is here to see him. After asking to see Santino's body, the adjudicator informs Winston that he must step down from his position due to the fact that he allowed John to live after spilling blood on Continental grounds. The Bowery King is visited by the adjudicator. He tells her that he is honoring the excommunicator. However, she informs him that no one is free from the high table's rules and that he must leave town because he gave John a gun, knowing what it would be used for. He laughs at her face, claiming that he cannot step down from the throne because he is the throne. John arrives in Casablanca almost immediately. He is set upon by 3 knife-wielding foes. One is killed in battle, but the fight is cut short by a man who informs them both that the manager has granted John amnesty. The assassin isn't happy and attempts to attack John, but the man shoots him. He and John go to Morocco's Continental Hotel, where John is taken to see the manager. He sees photos of a woman and her daughter before 2 growling dogs come and stand guard beside him. The manager, Sophia, steps out of the shadows and shoots him in the chest. He falls to the ground, but his suit is bulletproof. She tells him she ought to kill him, but he presents a marker that she made with John some years before as a result of John having rescued her daughter. She asks him not to present the marker, but John insists that she must take him to see her old boss. Reluctantly, she agrees. The adjudicator goes to a small sushi shop. The chef is Zero, who recognizes her coin and tells her that he didn't expect her so soon. He already knows about John and is interested in hunting him down. The adjudicator tasks him with doing so as well as going after all those who helped him. Sophia returns to John heavily armed. She hides a weapon on one of the dog's vests. John assures her he just wants to talk to her boss, but she's skeptical. They arrive at a complex and meet with Berta, Sophia's old boss. John asks Vereda to take him to the elder, the one who sits above the high table so he can make amends. Rada doesn't know where he is, but he knows that the elder only finds those who he wants to find. He tells John to go to the desert and to follow the stars until he is almost dead, where the elder may or may not find him before they can leave. Bereda demands a gift. He wants one of Sophia's dogs, but she is unwilling to give the dog to him. He shoots it instead. Unknown to Berada, it is wearing a bulletproof vest. John warns her against seeking revenge, but Sophia shoots Bereda, and a fight with his staff ensues. The dog attacks Berada's groin, one of the guards is dead, Sophia shoots Berada in the leg, and the two make their escape. But more guards are on the way. They shoot their way out of the complex with her dogs following her commands and then make their way to the desert. In the theater, the director watches a ballet performance by her students. Meanwhile, her guards are being cut down by brutal but efficient ninjas. 3 men walk on stage and interrupt the performance. The adjudicator and Zero approach from behind. She tells the director that her agreement with the high table doesn't allow her to help John. She agrees to show her fealty. The adjudicator requires her penalty to be paid in blood. Zero runs his sword through both her hands but leaves her alive. John and Sophia drive to the desert. John pricks his finger and signs the marker with his blood. Sophia's debt is fulfilled. Sophia gives most of the water to her dogs. She swills the rest in her mouth before spitting a mouthful back into the bottle. She tells John that he is going to die either here or later down the line. John walks into the desert with the bottle, and she leaves. He walks across sand dunes for a day and a night before he collapses. In the Bowery Kings complex, the ninjas brutally cut down many guards. Zero and the adjudicator approach the Bowery King on the roof. He tells the adjudicator that he is willing to show fealty, but she says that he has had his chance. He is defiant and sends his pigeon out of harm's way before Zero deals him 7 cuts as punishment for the 7 bullets he gave John. The Bowery King falls to the rooftop. In the desert, a cloaked man comes across John. Then John wakes up in a tent. He is face to face with the elder who informs him that he has never seen a man so lost. He asks him why he wants to live. John says it is to remember Helen. So the elder gives him a choice, die here or come back as the boogeyman again, remembering through death he can never be out like he once was, but he can reverse the excommunicado. In exchange, he must kill Winston. John agrees and pledges fealty by cutting off his wedding ring finger and gives the ring to the elder. The elder accepts his pledge of fealty. He directs his staff to help him prepare for passage back to New York and provides him with new clothes. Upon arriving in New York, John comes face to face with 2 assassins. However, they are cut down by some ninjas. The ninjas take John to see Zero. John and Zero are about to fight, but a line of school children interrupts them. John makes his escape, killing 2 motorcycle ninjas and taking a motorcycle. Zero and his ninja assassins chase John on the freeway. While driving at high speed, John kills several sword-wielding opponents. Zero chases him into the city, but they both crash near the Continental. Since John has his hand on Continental grounds, Zero cannot kill him. Karen takes John to a waiting room, and Zero follows. In this scene, he confesses how much of a fan he is. He tells John that they're the same, but John doesn't agree. John reunites with his dog but tells him to sit and stay once Winston is ready to see him. Winston meets John in a glass room used only when one needs to see what their opponent hides under the table. He knows John is here to kill him and prefers to be killed by a friend. But he tells John that there is another way. He can pull the trigger and sell his soul forever, becoming the boogeyman and working for the high table. Or he can stand and fight against the high table, eventually dying as the man his wife loved. The adjudicator arrives to see if Winston will step down. He will not. She asks if John will kill him. He will not. So she declares the Continental deconsecrated. Business can now be conducted on its grounds, and both men are targets. Some of the high table's finest will be joining them shortly. However, under the circumstances, Winston sees it fit to reinstate all of John's privileges. He'll need guns, lots of guns. John is shown to the arms room where he is told that the high table has improved their armor and has recommended a stronger caliber round. Winston locks himself in the arms safe while John, Karen, and some loyal men go to fight the onslaught of high table goons. Their armor is tougher than anyone thought, so John has to get up close and personal. The adjudicator phones Winston, asking how long he thinks he can keep the defense up. He puts the phone down before she finishes speaking. Only John and Karen survive the high table's first wave. They regroup in the arms safe where Karen introduces him to an armor-piercing shotgun. The second wave arrives, and John makes quick work of them. The shotgun is able to blow their heads clean off. The adjudicator phones Winston again and asks if a parley might be beneficial. He agrees. John makes his way to the glass room from before, where he is attacked by 2 ninjas and thrown through several glass displays. Eventually, he manages to kill both using their own sword. He makes his way upstairs as Zero taunts him through the glass but is attacked by 2 of Zero's best men. The shinobi get the upper hand and have the opportunity to kill John but refrain from doing so to talk about the honor of fighting him. The fight between John and the shinobi resumes and they manage to knock him down again. They discuss John's fitness level, which has been affected by his recent retirement. John then takes off his belt and prepares it as a weapon. After a third round where John is tired and resorts to groin kicks and ear slaps, John performs a slam on an opponent that shatters the glass ground and sends them crashing to the lower floor. The shinobi cannot get up, but John can, and he leaves to find Zero, who is on the upper floor. Zero and John engage in a long sword fight. Eventually, John gains the upper hand by using Zero's own disappearing trick against him. Even though he is badly bleeding, Zero keeps fighting until John shoves a sword straight through his chest. Both men sit together, and Zero talks about how good the fight was. He tells John he will catch up to him, but John says he won't. As John leaves, Zero slumps to the table dead. Winston and the adjudicator are on the roof having a parley. She tells Winston that this was just the first wave and that more will come, and that the Continental will fall. Winston retorts by claiming he could take the Continental back. His ties go deeper than these walls. John arrives as the adjudicator decides Winston's show of power was a show of fealty. She reinstates the Continental and him as manager but tells him that something must be done about John. Winston agrees and shoots John several times. The bullets bounce off his jacket, pushing him back until he falls from the roof, bouncing on various things which somewhat break his fall. Still, he hits the ground hard. As the adjudicator leaves, she decides she needs to check on John's body. She re-enters the Continental and tells Winston the body is gone. She tells him that they do not want John Wick coming after them. Winston agrees and whispers Baba Yaga. The Tick-Tock man wheels in a cart as John's dog follows. He tips a battered and broken John out of the cart, who rolls to a stop in front of a makeshift throne. On the throne, drinking a soda, is the Bowery King, who is cut up quite badly. He tells John to raise a hand if he can hear him, and John's three-fingered hand goes up. The Bowery King talks about John's betrayal and the High Table's rules. He mentions that more things get done under the table, that he's really pissed off, and asks John if he's pissed off too. John slowly raises his head, bloody and with a messed up eye, but he can still answer, yeah. Thank you for reading this article. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to receive new movie recaps.